This boy was considered a fool by everyone and still faced prejudice because of the color of his skin. However, determined to prove everyone wrong, he starts to work harder to become a neurosurgeon. But will he succeed? Stay tuned for spoilers ahead. Get your snacks ready, settle in, and let's dive into this incredible journey. Popcorn Session Channel presents Gifted Hands, the Ben Carson story. This boy is about to face the most challenging moment of his life in 1961. Benjamin Carson was the only black student in his class at a time when racism was not yet considered a crime. On that day, the teacher went around the desks asking how many questions each student had answered. Some responded with 25 or 30, but when Ben said he hadn't answered any, all the other children began to laugh at him. In addition to dealing with racism, the boy is also considered foolish by his peers. After class, as he opens his locker, one of his classmates approaches to taunt him. Tired of enduring bullying, Ben loses his patience and retaliates by punching the boy in the face. As a consequence, his mother, Sonia Carson, is called to the school. The principal informs her that besides behaving badly, Ben only receives poor grades, showing her the boy's report card filled with FS and DS. Upon returning home, Sonia tells her son that he needs to control his anger and improve his grades. However, the boy's self-esteem is low, and he believes he is foolish because other children constantly label him as such. In an attempt to encourage him, Sonia tells him that he is intelligent and just needs to apply himself more to his studies. The next day, Sonia comes home from work and instructs Ben and his brother Curtis to do their homework. Ben then asks for help with his assignment, explaining that he can't read the book properly. Realizing that something might be wrong with his vision, Sonia conducts a test by asking him to read the writing on cereal boxes in the pantry. Unfortunately, the boy struggles, and Sonia realizes that his poor performance at school was due to difficulty seeing the board. Using the savings she had kept in a jar, Sonia buys glasses for him. Over the following days, the boy's grades begin to improve. Ben and his brother go to the church service, where the pastor shares the story of a missionary doctor who faced various challenges to provide medical care to poor patients in dangerous places. Inspired by this story, Ben returns home and tells his mother that he wants to become a doctor. Sonia is pleased to hear the news. However, she is still quite depressed and decides to seek help at a psychiatric hospital. Quickly, she is attended to by a psychiatrist and reveals that she grew up in an orphanage. She got married at a young age, at 13, just to escape from that place. Despite this, she, Mr. Carson, and their 2 sons lived happily in a great house. One day, she discovered that her husband had another wife and daughters. Moreover, he was involved in illegal activities to support both families. As Sonia shares this story, she becomes emotional and starts to cry. She admits that she can't read and is afraid that Ben and Curtis might face the same sad fate as hers. Hearing Sonia confess that she had recently thought about taking her own life, the psychiatrist suggests that she be admitted. Sonia, however, mentions that she doesn't have the money to pay for treatment. Unfortunately, the psychiatrist is moved by her story and allows Sonia to be admitted, agreeing that she can pay later when she has more financial resources. Later that evening, Sonia lies to Ben and Curtis, telling them that she is going on a trip to Boston to visit her aunt. To keep encouraging her sons to focus on their studies, Sonia instructs them to memorize multiplication tables until her return. Afterward, a church sister takes care of the boys while Sonia arrives at the psychiatric hospital. Upon reading the letter that Ben left in her suitcase, Sonia opens a smile. As days pass, the boy becomes increasingly intelligent and scores 24 out of 25 questions on a test. After Sonia's treatment concludes, Ben arrives home and is delighted to see his mother has returned. He reveals that he successfully memorized the multiplication tables, as she had requested. Sonia is extremely proud of her son, and soon she secures a new job at the house of a professor named Burker. This man has a massive collection of books in his mansion. While talking to the professor, Sonia learns that the man's wife fell ill and passed away. Since then, he has been cleaning the mansion alone. After working the whole day, Sonia realizes that her boss lives in a mansion because he read and studied a lot. When she arrives home, she turns off the TV that her children were watching and explains that they should spend less time in front of the screen and read at least 2 books per week. Naturally, the boys don't like the idea, but Sonia tells them that if they read a lot, they will be the ones appearing on television, and they won't have to stay at home watching other people's success. Ben and Curtis then head to a library. As the day dawns and weeks go by, they develop a habit of reading. Ben even creates summaries of the books he picks up and reads them aloud for his mother to hear. She pretends to have vision problems because she is ashamed to admit to her children that she doesn't know how to read. After reading various books, including one about rocks, the boy begins to excel in school. He performs well in a spelling test the teacher conducted one day. The biology teacher brings a small rock to class and asks the students its name. Ben gives a comprehensive answer, explaining that the rock is obsidian and forms through the combination of water and lava from volcanoes. Impressed by the boy's intelligence, the teacher invites Ben after class to demonstrate how a microscope works, introducing him to the world of microorganisms. Several years pass, and Ben receives a certificate for the highest academic achievement, becoming the top student in the 8th grade. Despite most people being happy for him, the teacher takes the microphone to discriminate against him, saying it's a shame that white students lost to a black student. The smile on Ben's face disappears, and he becomes quite sad. To prevent a recurrence of this regrettable situation, Sonia uses her savings to move with her children to Chicago. In the new school, Ben quickly realizes that there are many other black students like him. The next day, a young man named Joe approaches Ben to tease him. However, instead of staying quiet or becoming sad, Ben fires back by joking that Joe's mother is so old that her birth certificate is expired. Recognizing Ben's sense of humor, Joe extends his hand to greet him, and they end up becoming friends. As days pass, Joe leads Ben down the wrong path, introducing him to some dangerous guys who sell him a pocket knife. Meanwhile, Sonia makes a considerable effort and manages to buy the new clothes that Ben requested. However, when she arrives in his room and finds the new clothes on his bed, the young man throws them on the floor because he doesn't like them and begins to play with his pocket knife. In the morning, he comes to have breakfast, and Sonia asks why he isn't wearing the clothes she bought. The young man says he won't wear them, and they start arguing. As a result, Ben gets upset and threatens to attack his mother, but his brother Curtis holds him back to prevent the situation from escalating. As days go by, his behavior continues to decline. After arguing with Joe about the music playing on the radio, Ben gets irritated and stabs his friend. Fortunately, the blade hits Joe's belt and breaks without injuring his skin. Following this incident, Ben runs back home, locks himself in his room, takes a Bible in his hand, and asks God to take away the anger in his heart. For years later, Ben manages to get into medical school to pursue his greatest dream. The young man even finds a girlfriend named Kenny. The two are talking, and Ben reveals that his grades are not as good as those of other students, risking the loss of his scholarship. Kenny advises Ben to spend more time reading than attending lectures since, from his school days, he has demonstrated that he studies better by reading than by attending classes. In addition to giving this excellent advice, Kenny helps Ben study using flashcards. After weeks of studying intensively, Ben takes the chemistry exam, and when the grades are released, he celebrates with Kenny upon realizing that he got an A. After graduating, Ben marries Kenny and decides to interview for a neurosurgery residency at Johns Hopkins Hospital. The interviewer questions why they should accept Ben when there are 125 candidates vying for only 2 spots. Initially unsure of how to respond, Ben takes a few moments to think and then explains that he is one of the few doctors who believes in miracles. He elaborates, stating that the human brain is not just an organ but a gift from God. According to Ben, using the brain allows people to achieve incredible things, true miracles. He gives the example of composing amazing classical music. Thanks to this response, he secures the position he desired. One day, all the neurosurgeons at the hospital are occupied, and a severely injured patient arrives, requiring immediate brain surgery to survive. However, Ben cannot perform the procedure as it is against the law for a resident to operate without the supervision of a qualified neurosurgeon. Despite the legal restrictions, Ben decides to go ahead with the surgery to save the patient's life. Fortunately, everything goes well. However, as soon as the procedure concludes, the chief surgeon calls Ben into his office to express that he put the entire hospital at risk. If the surgery had gone wrong, the consequences could have been disastrous. Despite this, the surgeon shakes Ben's hand, acknowledging that he did a good job and made the right decision. Several years later, Ben is promoted to chief pediatric neurosurgeon and manages to perform true miracles, saving many children whom other doctors had considered beyond help. Additionally, he has 2 children with his wife Kenny, who is currently expecting a set of twins. On one particular day, Ben is called to attend to a little girl named Cynthia who is suffering from violent seizures. In a conversation with the girl's parents, Ben suggests removing the left hemisphere of Cynthia's brain to stop the seizures. Despite being a risky surgery that would leave lasting effects, the parents agree because it is the best option they have. After several hours of risky surgery, Cynthia wakes up and recognizes her parents, able to converse with them normally. The news quickly spreads, and numerous reporters appear to speak with Ben and understand how he managed to achieve such a feat. Later, Sonia arrives at Ben's house to see her grandchildren and catch up with everyone. At night, Kenny wakes her husband to inform him that the twins are being born. He rushes with her to the hospital, where he waits while another doctor performs the delivery. It is not advisable for a doctor to operate on a close family member due to ethical considerations and other factors. After a few hours, the doctor updates Ben, revealing that Kenny is fine. However, sadly, the twins did not survive. This news devastates Ben, but he tries to stay strong to continue working normally. After all, many other lives depend on him. Sometime later, a doctor from a hospital in Germany contacts Ben to see if he can separate two twins who were born conjoined at the skull. Upon returning home, Ben discusses the situation with his wife to see if she agrees to perform the surgery. Conjoined twins attached at the skull have never been successfully separated, as one of them typically does not survive. Despite the risks, Ben decides to proceed with the procedure because he does not want the babies to be conjoined for the rest of their lives. The man then travels to Germany to meet the twins and their parents. The parents express that they don't want to have to choose between the two babies. Ben explains that one of the babies always dies because medicine has not yet found a way to stop the bleeding after separation. However, he promises to do his best to try to find a way to save both. After this, Ben returns to the United States and studies for months to try to find a solution to stop the bleeding. However, he is unsuccessful and contemplates giving up. But his colleague reassures him, saying that he is the best pediatric neurosurgeon in the world, and if Ben can't do it, no one else can. Upon returning home, Ben tells his mother that he can't find a solution because he's experiencing some mental block. She realizes that Ben is afraid that these twins will die and share the same fate as his deceased children. Now aware of what was hindering his thoughts, Ben finally finds a solution, temporarily stopping the hearts of the babies to prevent them from bleeding to death. However, he can only stop their hearts for 1 hour, and this short time is crucial for the most important part of the surgery. On September 5, 1987, Ben organizes a team of 49 professionals who gather to perform the surgery. First, they stop the hearts of the babies and initiate the process of reconstructing the blood vessels for each of them, ensuring that both won't experience bleeding when their hearts start beating again. After a grueling 26 hours of surgery, the babies are successfully separated. Finally, Ben reunites with the parents of the babies in the waiting room and informs them that everything went well. They embrace him and express their gratitude. Ben Carson goes down in medical history, inventing a new method for separating conjoined twins. He could have simply refused to perform this surgery, but due to his courage and perseverance, Ben Carson ultimately made history as the first doctor to successfully separate two twins born conjoined at the skull.